So the ego death was extremely important to the process. It definitely affected who I am once I learned what the ego was. Like, it's one thing to talk about the ego because we hear it so much, but to really stand face to face with that thing is something else. So I think it's important that we know what the ego is so we know how to use it in this life and not let it use us. I was tripping, of course, and please don't think I just trip every day, all day. I don't. But for this particular time, I was tripping, and the person that I was simply melted away and was not a part of me anymore. And at that moment, I knew I was more than that person because a part of me still existed when it was gone. So I never knew about what was underneath the ego. I didn't even think the ego was like a thing. But the experience was like this. I was tripping. My boyfriend was sitting there, and I was like, oh my gosh, we're not real. We're not real. And he looked at me and said, I'm real. And I was like, of course he thinks that because he's not tripping or he just haven't had this experience. But I responded, I was like, okay, good. Like, oh, I'm glad you haven't had this realization because this is a lot to handle. And so, I was like, oh my gosh, something's been hiding underneath that ego. And it was like, I was getting frustrated with myself. I was like, why do I keep believing in this ego? Why do I keep thinking I'm this person every day? I know it's a temporary person. And that ego was making me approach life as if life isn't temporary, as if it's something forever, as if all the people around me are forever. But if I approach it from the truth, I will be approaching it from a perspective knowing that all of these things are temporary. But that's a whole nother level of understanding. So this ego melted away, and here I am having this flashback of this happening to me when I was a child. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, when I was a kid, I knew that this person was just something I keep coming in and out of. Like, I come into it during the daytime, and then I go out of it at night, because at nighttime when you're dreaming, you could be anybody. Like, I've had dreams where I'm like an Asian person, and I understand and I have this whole other life. So when I'm asleep, I can be all these different things. But when I'm here, this is that one consistent person that I am every day. And from my understanding, this person is programmed through the subconscious mind, not necessarily by the content and the context, but by repetition. So a combination of all the experiences and all the thought processes that I've had made this person. And it was experiences and thought processes put into me from society. So this person was created in order for me to cooperate and maneuver through this society. And that's why you have to give it a name. Because before we are a somebody, we are a nobody. Meaning that we're not only limited to this body. A lot of us, especially if you're watching my channel, you probably already know consciousness is not confined to physical entities. It's not confined to this physical body. Consciousness is everywhere. So once we start thinking that we're somebody, we kind of use our consciousness to zone in right here. And if you're not careful, your consciousness will be all over the place, and you definitely can't use it like that. But either way, so I had this experience. I lost myself. I lost this person. And I'm like trying to ask people like, you know, oh my gosh, this happened. Has this ever happened to you? And they're like, no, that ain't never happened to me, bruh. And so, and these were people I talked to in person. So by the time I come over here on this YouTube channel and talk about it, trust me, I didn't try to talk about it in person because I don't want to go online telling all my business. But at this time, and I feel like it's important to take advantage of the airwaves. Like, this is literally air. I'm talking to the air, and anybody on the other side of the screen has a chance at understanding me or not understanding me, liking my message or not liking my message. And so this is my attempt to connect or to inspire those who have had a similar experience when you lose your person. I was lost at the time. I didn't know what happened to me. So I was talking to people trying to get answers, and unfortunately, I never knew what it was until I met with this spiritual leader. I went somewhere and I didn't want to go, but I went, and boom, the whole thing was explained to me. And so I've also been learning the process of diminishing that person that I created to deal with the society, diminishing it so the true me can be revealed. And through the process, I'm learning that that person that I've created is changeable should I need to change it, but I don't want to ever be a victim of it. Because see, that person is connected to the physical more than the true one is. That person likes to think that everything around it is real. And also, like I said, it's connected to wanting things. It's connected to wanting attention. It needs food all the time. It needs a certain kind of food. It needs a certain kind of taste. It needs to hear a certain kind of music all the time. It needs to be dressed a certain way and things like that. It needs to be in love. It needs to have somebody to love it back. It also needs, so it needs like relationships. It needs family. It needs all these physical things. It needs it because it's not real. It's very, very temporary. So what I'm saying is that it's really attached to the physical things of this world, and we can appreciate things. Oh my gosh, yes we can, but we don't have to be attached to them. This is just from my learning, from my understanding, and I'm always evolving, always learning. So trust me, anything I tell you is from my own experience. I could tell you about a book, but if I haven't applied the principles in that book, then I can't really communicate that with you. But for these experiences, man, I'm telling you, this was crazy. So being so attached to physical things, like even people, because we know that people eventually are going to pass. But somehow when they pass, we go through this grieving period. And sometimes it can be like extremely long. You're like, oh my gosh, I felt like a piece of me is gone. One part is like other people might feel sympathy for you. Like, oh yeah, that's very sad. But eventually you have to know the truth. No one should ever be a piece of you. Meaning that not even a husband or a wife should be a piece of you, because you should already be whole. Everybody should already be complete and completely whole. Meaning that you can appreciate your wife, you can appreciate your husband, but should they depart from you, should not be a grieving period. It should be, if you truly appreciated them, then you will know all of this is temporary. Our experiences, the people we know, the people we love. We should never be extremely attached to the point where if they depart from us, we lose our mind and we lose our clarity. Now, that's the truth. So if we approach life that way, how much time will we not waste anymore? Like, for example, I'm going to use my own self as an example. Like the things that I used to like to have. Well, I've never really been materialistic, but for instance, like me going out and needing to buy shoes every weekend. This was never me, but this is an example. If I was to go out and buy shoes every weekend, like, oh my gosh, I got to get those shoes. Every week, I'm so incomplete. You know what I mean? Like, every week, I'm so incomplete. I got to just keep having these things. But really, it's the ego, because the ego is very temporary. So it always needs. But if you operate from your true self, you will see how complete you are, and you will be able to appreciate things with a detached point of view. That works very well for me, just because a lot of people have a lot of negative energy in them, and we all have negative and positive energy. But if we spend too much time around negative people, they just intensify that negativity in you. If you hang around positive people, they intensify the positive in you. So unless you know how to transmute negative energy into positive, but that's a whole nother subject. So another thing is like I was saying, this ego is how I operate through society. It gives me desires. Like a lot of people want a husband or a wife, a good career, and then they also want children. But why do you want children? Because we have this idea in our mind that children mean that we're grown-ups and we've lived a full life. I'm not saying having kids are good or bad. This is just from my detached perspective of what's going on in our society. It's like, oh my gosh, the baby is so cute. But you look at all these kids and they're always on iPads nowadays. So it's like after the kids get out of that cute baby phase, they become annoying or something like that. And the parents might start to neglect them. Like, I don't know. I don't have children. So my perspective is so limited. But from what I've noticed is that a lot of kids are lonely because the parents are working all the time. And it's like, if parents had their kids because they want their children to help change the world, or they had the kid for a particular purpose, you know what I mean? I feel like the kids wouldn't be so bored all the time. They wouldn't be so attached to like gadgets and gadgets because it's hard to pull them away from it. I've seen kids go like throw temper tantrums because they become so dependent on that source. But I guess there's a lot of ways to look at it, and but it's so important to love the children and spend time with them because our society requires that we work so much. Oh my gosh, it requires us to be so busy all the time. You know, even for our own other family members sometimes. I know that's why we have holidays and things like that, but still, like, shouldn't we see each other more? Another thing is, it's like our ego wants us to be attractive. It likes attention so much, and it likes sexual attention too. So a lot of people will be having sex because of their ego, and they had a whole child. Like, how do you have a whole human being not on purpose? Unless our subconscious minds are programmed to do the thing that has the sex, but not be prepared to take care of the effect that it brings, you know, like taking care of the child. A lot of people are born because their parents' hormones, not so much we wanted this child. I barely hear people say we wanted this child. That's just from my, like I said, this is my perspective. It's very limited, so I definitely have to talk to other parents and things like that to get a better perspective. But my perspective matters. It matters to me. And I feel like that's what I notice. And if it can help somebody, I hope it does. But if it can't, just disregard it. So yeah, that's the whole thing about the ego. And two, so just applying the principles I've learned about the ego, I will say it's definitely made me look at myself, because the ego covers up this true self. Because the ego is a guard and it's produced out of fear. So my ego needs the attention because it's scared of people forgetting about me. When if I were to approach that from the truth, I would be okay with people forgetting about me, because I'm going to die one day, and all the people that knew me will die too. So therefore, one day somebody's just not going to know me. That's the truth. But I think when we try to cheat the laws of the universe and we try to create big names for ourselves that just every generation's going to know about us, every generation's got to know about me, that's an illusion. I got to be fly. I got to be this. That's an illusion. And it costs you a lot of your energy. But the last thing that I do want to mention about this ego is one way you can operate with this society, but another way is through your heart. Having a pure heart definitely balances out this selfish and unrealistic ego. I'm not perfect, but if I approach things from my heart, I have a better result than if I approach it from my ego. Like me being honest with people and things like that. You know, like for instance, some of the comments that people leave on my channel, like calling me schizophrenic. Somebody said that, I guess she said that I was, she asked if I was talking about DMT, but she said something about PCP. And I didn't even know what that was until somebody else came and said what it was. You know what I mean? And I thought that was rude. And another person told me I was a bad person. And I could sit there and say, that doesn't hurt. Because sometimes it doesn't hurt. Because, like, I'm prepared for it. And sometimes I use it for good. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad they said that, because that gives me an opportunity to reflect within myself and say, are these things true? No, they're not true. Why are you upset? Because I don't want people to think that I'm this way. Why? Because I still care about what people think about me. That's the truth. It's not their comments that's upsetting me. It's really a reflection of myself, if it bothers me. But sometimes, because of this realization of losing the ego, I'm able to use my experiences to not judge, but kind of discern where other people are coming from. So like when people tell me that I'm a bad person, they can only tell me what their mind is capable of making up. So if you think I'm a bad person, really that's just a reflection coming from you of yourself. You're a bad person. Because what just happened here, you made those words. You put those words together, not me. So I think using like trolls and things like that definitely helped me balance out this ego. Because see, if I had a heavy ego, the ego is scared. So it likes to fight. It likes to argue and things like that. But if you don't operate from the ego and operate from your heart, because really it don't matter what people think about me. Because I'm not doing this for how people think about me. I'm sorry. I just had to make that very clear, because people seem to leave these comments and it's like, you completely missed the video. Because if you watch the video, you would know none of those words are necessary here. And but it is an opportunity for me to learn. So I'm not running the trolls away. All trolls, all negative comments, all personal and objective opinions are welcome, because I know how to use that information and bring it inside of myself and either fix myself or either learn more about you. And it also teaches me more about the state of the world. Everybody's operating out of this ego to where they think that people should think like me. People should be like me. People should want to practice my religion. People should want to wear their hair like mine. And that's the thing, like, that's your ego, because you're scared of being alone. You're scared of being different. You're scared of being yourself. And me making this channel is literally about me being myself. I don't want to be under a shell. I don't want to have to limit how I converse with people. Like, I don't want to limit it. And so it's best for me to connect with others who have similar experience or would like to have the same conversation versus just holding it in all the time. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not a kid. I'm not that. I'm a growing and evolving person. And the last thing, I know I said that before, but this is the very last thing. One thing I noticed about this true self is very unlimited. Like, it's so many aspects of it that it can't be condensed into a person that society makes us become, this one person. This thing is infinite. Like, it's always learning and it's always flexible. So it's teaching me sometimes it's okay to do this thing, but in other situations, this thing needs to be held off from. Like, I know when to talk and I know when to be quiet. It's balanced. I know when to walk and I know when to sit down. I know when to go and then I know when to chill. That's called being flexible. That's where the wisdom is. See, wisdom isn't like doing the same thing over and over again. No, that's that person that's built off principles, which your ego has to have principles, or else it's going to control you in a way that you don't want it to be, because it's programmed like through the subconscious, which is patterns and repeated behaviors, repeated thoughts, things like that. But when you're free from that thing, You can use it how you need to use it. You can reprogram yourself. You can reprogram that ego so it's always operating in your best favor. And so, yeah, sometimes we need positivity, but sometimes we need negativity. Like to help us grow. Not all the time, but sometimes it's cool. You know what I mean? I do protect my eyes and my ears, so I don't listen to like a lot of music. I started to listen to more music without the words. I do have to be like very strict on my eyes about who I follow on Instagram and things like that, because see, a lot of popular culture just is reaching out and talking to the ego. It's only dealing with your ego because it needs your ego to buy more things, because your ego is the one that needs the attention. So it needs these things and over again. But yeah, so this ego thing is a long process. But like I said, ego death, the first time I ever heard about it was on shrooms, and I met a good teacher to teach me what it was and how to diminish it. And now experience is really teaching me more. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video.